And I remember sitting at the entrance to the Fogle ashram just inside one day, kind of spacing out, I guess, and Padma and Smara Hari were both sitting just nearby me and just kind of hanging out, and the two of them started discussing about, you know, the visiting Western devotees and how, you know, kind of rough and ready they were and passionate, and how they didn't know how to do things properly in India, which was a fact, because, you know, that was my first visit to India. I had no clue how to behave whatsoever. But being the kind of personality that I was, when I heard them apparently criticizing the visiting devotees, I became infuriated and I jumped up and I blasted them both. You know, who do you think you are? You know, like this, criticizing all the devotees, and these devotees have been out, you know, collecting all you so they can build this temple that you're living in. And I really let them have it. And I remember the two of them were just like stunned. And then I stomped off before I had a chance to have any further exchanges with them. So that was my first meeting with Padma. 3 months later, I came back from Australia and I moved into the, you know, Padmalochan temple. And this was like at the end of July. So just 3-4 months afterwards. And as soon as I walked in the gate, I was apprehended by Bhagavata Shraya, who was back to Richard at that time. And he said, "Oh, great, you've come." And he took me into the temple president's office and he announced, "I found our new temple commander." I just walked in. I literally, I had my suitcases. I just got off the Tonga, and he took me straight in, and I was appointed the temple commander on the spot. So that was India in those days. There was not many devotees, and of course Padma and Smara Hari, and there were a few others. Giri Bharat Hari, that was Smara's brother, and there was this character called Sita. They were living in the same room together, and I had the task of trying to engage them all, you know, in doing daily service in the temple. I can tell you, it was no easy thing. But you know, I gradually learned, you know, to appreciate, and we formed a kind of friendship. And then, of course, later on, I became Prabhupada's servant, so I left there. But they remained for many years. And you know, at first glance, Padma was such an odd character that, you know, you couldn't really work him out at all. Just from his external, you know, behavior or the way he dressed and just his kind of seemingly casual attitude, it was difficult to sometimes take him very seriously. But a few years, you know, afterwards, I started, you know, watching as he started putting out all these books about Vrindavan, you know, all the different pastime places, and I was amazed at how deep he was and how seriously, you know, he took living in the Dham, and how absorbed he became in all of the different pastime places, and he could wrap everything off, you know, just off the top of his head for hours and hours and hours. I mean, and then I started to realize that, you know, my superficial judgment was, you know, way off the mark, and that he was actually a very, very advanced devotee. And I remember the first time that I did Govardhan Parikrama, which was, I think, maybe 80, 81, something like that. And I asked Padma if he would take me around. So he did do. So I did my first Govardhan Parikrama, just me and Padma. And it was really blissful. I mean, because we set a bit of a pace, but we did the whole thing, and I was really very happy to have him as my guide. Of course, he also later on he built up a reputation as a tour guide for all the pastime places in Vrindavan. And if you went with Padma, that it wasn't like anybody else. You would go and spend 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there, and you know, you could do the Vrindavan Parikrama in about 3 or 4 hours, and that was, you know, even if you were stopping at different places. If you went with Padma, you had to go early in the morning, and you wouldn't get back until late at night, and he still wouldn't have finished, you know, explaining everything. He knew so much stuff, you know, all the different pastimes and stories from the Puranas, and he was really an amazing mind of information. Of course, he, you know, later on he came here to Mayapur, and he remained here for how long was he in Mayapur? 16
Since
years?
95.
95. So he came here just the year before I came. And you know, he was really the epitome of the Dhamvasi. Very happy, very content to live in Mayapur very simply, you know, had no hankerings for any big, you know, material.
He was actually before in Mayapur too, but when 70.
Okay, maybe Janadi can relate that. You know, I really appreciated just how he, you know, he was part of the scenery, as they say. You know, he was a fixture in the Dham, and I'm sure he still is. So he was a very, you know, very inspiring person in many different ways. So, you know, he was learned. He had that natural austerity that comes from real knowledge. He had a natural renunciation of material life. He just wasn't interested in it. He was fully absorbed, you know, in spiritual affairs, and therefore he just didn't really take care of himself. He didn't, you know, didn't care about what he dressed like or looked like so much. And I remember seeing him every day, every single day, going on his bicycle to the Ganga. You know, Sunday at midday, he'd go down and go past my house, and I'd watch him go down, and then a little while later he'd come back again, and he did that for, you know, every day for years and years and years. It was just like clockwork, incredibly regulated. And as you said, I had occasion one time when I was the Mayapur director, co-director, there was some complaints about his chanting. Because he was getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then he would bellow, "Go Ranga!" and everybody, you know, wake everybody up. And of course he had the best of intentions in doing it, but he was doing it every day. But you know, that was his personality. He was, you know, a unique individual. I mean, everybody's unique, but he was very unique. He had his own characteristics, and you know, he was always there doing, you know, with all the pujas, helping to organize, giving advice about that. He was, yeah, I just really, the longer that I knew him, the more that I appreciated him, and the more that I appreciated, you know, his deep, very deep spirituality. So it's a nice opportunity. I'm very happy to come and, you know, say a few words of glorification. But I did come and see him a few times just before he left, and he mentioned to me about these, I think 3 occasions, you can correct me if I'm wrong, where some entities came on a chariot, golden chariot, and told him that, you know, now you should come with us. And then he asked, but he didn't want to go, and he asked where, you know, where are you from? And then, I think the 3rd time. And then they said Padmalochan, and he said, no, I don't want to go.
Oh, it's the same man kept on coming.
Huh?
Same man kept on coming.
The same personality.
And helmet and very bright, very.
Yeah, very fulgent personality.
Yeah, so he had a helmet and he had this chariot.
Yeah, and a chariot.
He a few times he came.
Yeah, Padma told me he came 3 times, and the 3rd time he asked him where he's from, and he said Padmalochan, and he said, no, I don't want to go there, I want to go to Prabhupada. And then that was it. After that he didn't come anymore. So, you know, he had enough awareness of what was going on that he refused to go to the highest planet in the material world.
He actually came because he was telling him to come back there.
He what?
He was telling him to come back there.
Who was?
That man.
The man was telling Padma to go back.
To come back there to Padmalochan.
To come back to Padmalochan. Alright, so there's an indication. But he had enough of the material world, and therefore he refused to go, and he waited for the right time. So that's a very clear indication. If you turn down going to the highest planet in the material universe, when you do go, where are you going to go? There's only one other place you can go, and that's back to Goloka Vrindavan. So I think that's proof and evidence in itself. Anyway, so Jananivas Prabhu is here. He had a lot more interactions with Padma than I did, so I'll finish at this point.